Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Jackson.
We are 2020 LEGO Masters Series 2 winners.
Welcome to our Scribblers Festival Fueling Creativity video. So the concept for this build was based around the idea of food being fuel. This is represented by all the vegetables and fruit, which get piled up this conveyor belt, thrown into this big mechanical heart, which represents a healthy mind, healthy body.
Yeah, so we started by playing with the idea of fueling and using vegetables, and we thought what better than this massive heart machine, and we could have these workers loading vegetables into it to power it and get it moving.
So up here we've got two long-haired scientisty dudes who are supervising, may or may not be representations of Alex and I. They're the ones who built this whole thing, and they've mechanized the whole process, and we've got all these guys down here who are operating the floor.
So the minifigs are all working to load up the machine. We've got a couple guys down here shoveling, playing around in the vegetables, and they load it into this big conveyor belt feeding mechanism that drops the veggies down the chute into the heart. And we've automated it, which is pretty cool. And so this is what it does, really. Get excited.
And then when all the vegetables are in the heart, they come out the back in a little tray here.
So we wanted to go for a super industrial vibe, and so to achieve that, what we've done is we've used heaps of little steering wheels and tap heads and tubes and just sort of put them all over the place to make it look really intricate.
A really fun part of LEGO is putting all that really small detail into stuff like that. It's called greebling. So greebling is when you use lots of tiny little parts to create the sense of underlying complexity. Here at the front, we've got all these steering wheels and pipes and hoses, and it makes the whole thing look like it's part of one big complicated machine.
You see we've done that as well on the heart. There's lots of cogs and tubes, and these are leaf pieces that come in red, and we thought they looked really sort of arterial, so we put them on the heart as well, just to give it that real texture.
We would estimate this piece is probably around 4,000 or 5,000 individual LEGO pieces. There's a lot going on here. We'll sit down together, we'll discuss the brief, which in this case was the concept of healthy eating, and we'll throw out as many different ideas as we can. What works about this, what doesn't, what's going to be difficult about this. And through this process of elimination, we get to the idea that we both like the most. It's pretty obvious to both of us when we've got the right idea. There'll usually be one that stands out, and it just feels right. Yeah,
it's funny, it clicks, and then and then all of a sudden you get really excited about it. And I think the real giveaway is when you start coming up with little things. You're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was monkeys in the bananas, and what if we used grills on the floor? And when you start feeling your brain run away with little ideas, it's usually a pretty good indicator that you're onto one that you love. Once we came up with the idea for the heart machine, Jackson sketched it out like this, which is really cool, and it sort of allowed us to envisage how all the different elements fit together. And there's a real divide between your drawing and your actual LEGO model, because you find sometimes when you're putting pieces together and putting elements together, they don't fit the way you envisage. So it's very much a sort of change it as you go process. I think one of the best things about working collaboratively is that often you can do better work than you would have done individually. And I think Jackson and I are a really good example of that, because we have quite different backgrounds and skill sets when it comes to this sort of stuff. I'm an engineer, Jackson's a visual artist, and you can see that combination in this build because we have the technical elements like the moving conveyor belt, and then the polished design work on the front, and sort of that real aesthetic stuff is what Jackson does. And I think the two of us come together really well.
And I feel that the key really is to be as open and receptive to the other person's ideas as you possibly can. And if you can both do that, then eventually you're going to end up somewhere pretty awesome.
There's definitely an element of not getting overly attached to your own ideas as well. You might see something some way, but the other person doesn't see it the same. And I think being able to go, okay, cool, that one didn't quite work, and be really open to moving on to a new idea is it goes a long way in working collaboratively.
Alex will always push me to come up with more stuff that I never could have come up with on my own, and vice versa. And that's the beauty of working in a team. You really can push each other to do things that you would never have thought you could do yourself. One of the ways that I feel my creativity is by choosing something completely random, something I might not have thought of, something that feels a little bit uncomfortable and outside of my comfort zone, and then working back from there. And I find that can sometimes lead to really great ideas coming through.
When Jackson and I were practicing for Lego Masters, one of the things we loved to do was just to pick a random minifigure and then try and come up with an idea off the back of that. And I think one of the best ways to be creative is to start somewhere that you wouldn't normally have started and work from there.
I think one of our favorite Lego pieces is probably just the minifig, because you can say and do so much with them. The stories that they can tell through posing them and making them interact with each other can be really fun.
It's funny because they're so small and very rigid, but they are also super dynamic in what you can do with them. Like, their arms only move like this, but you can do all sorts of fun poses, like this guy swatting away the monkey and then these guys carrying stuff, chilling out. They're strangely versatile little dudes. A big part of our process when we're building a larger scale Lego model is to think about what's the big story, what's the big obvious story, and here it's the feeding the machine. But then keeping you interested in the model when you're looking at it by throwing in little stories as well, and Lego is really great for that.
One of the great things about Lego that I love when it comes to storytelling is you'll be trawling through the box of Lego and you'll find a part and it suddenly sparks something. Like these guys, for example, I was just scraping through the Lego box and I found a little monkey, and I thought, oh man, the monkeys can be getting into the big crate of bananas. And I found a couple more monkeys and threw them in there, and that created a fun little vignette in the corner here.
I guess that's another thing. Color composition is something we thought about a lot in this. What's the bit that you want the viewer to look at? What do you want them to see? And for us, it was the heart. So we built most of it's, the gray base plate, but then made the heart the deep red color, so it draws your eye. That's the focal point.
And also lighting as well. In this model, we did spend quite a bit of time designing the lighting system to really bring focus to the key areas and to just give it a sense of life and electricity. With Lego or any other creative project, I think having constraints and boundaries is a super important part of the creative process. If you're told that you can just do whatever, it's really hard to know where to start. But if you have a few specific criteria or limitations placed on you, then your creative response to those limitations is what can create a really exciting project.
With a creative project like this, if you hit a hurdle that you're really stuck on and you're not progressing, one of the best things to do is to maybe try and work on another element of the build, or take a step back and come at it from a different angle. When you hit a hurdle that's frustrating, don't let it tip the whole project over.
I get too tunnel vision and hyper-focused on like one particular detail, and then Alex will step in and draw my attention to the bigger picture, and it's really helpful when you're working together like that.
Jackson and I definitely do disagree on things, but one of the real strengths of our collaborative work is that we're particularly good at conflict resolution. It's not personal, we don't get hung up on things. We're very open with our communication and honest, and when you commit to being honest and open, you can usually overcome disagreements pretty well.
I think something that we both realise when we're collaborating is that creative differences aren't personal differences. It's just a different interpretation or a different perspective. And if, rather than seeing that as an obstacle to your own creativity, if you can see your partner's ideas as an advantage, then it becomes a much more productive relationship.
It's super valuable insight as well, being able to have someone right there that can look at something that you're doing and interpret it from an outside perspective, because sometimes something can seem super obvious to you. An idea can be like, it makes total sense to me. And then I'll say it to Jackson, it's like, what? It makes no sense at all. And I think that's a really valuable tool to have at your disposal readily. My favourite subject in school was drama. I was a big drama kid, I loved it.
My favourite subjects in school were physics and art.
I think creativity is super important in learning, because people learn in different ways. Injecting creativity into any subject is a great way to help make it more accessible for everybody, because people are different.
Establishing a creative approach to learning, it makes it more accessible for everybody, because if it's more creative, it's more fun. It's very easy to get totally absorbed into something and throw all your energy into it when it's something that you're passionate about and something that you're having fun with.
I think playing and having fun is a massive part of our creative process, and definitely something we try and inject into everything that we build. The more fun you have with what you're doing, generally the better the outcome.
It's pretty easy to have fun when you're playing with Lego.
So now you've seen how healthy eating fuels our creativity.
So we challenge you to build a Lego masterpiece around the theme, go for 2 fruit and 5 vegetable.
You can use any prompt you like. One of the things that we would suggest doing is maybe having a look in your kitchen, see what you've got. Find something that prompts an idea, that gets you thinking about a cool build that you could do with fruit and vegetables. Like for instance, you could take a little tomato here, like we found in Jackson's kitchen, and then what happens if we load it into the heart machine, Jackson?
I don't know, let's find out.
Oh, so it's what have we got?
We have a Lego tomato. Step 1.
Have a look around for inspiration. Step 2.
Look at what Lego you've got, what works, what doesn't. Step 3.
Brainstorm. And then step 4.
Sketch it out.
Then build it.
Yeah. Then you build it.
If you don't have your Fueling Creativity workbook,
Email hello@scribblersfestival.com.au.
we challenge you.
Sorry.
Cool.
We're doing tough go?
I don't know what I'm doing.
The creativity starts now. Get your Scribblers Festival Fueling Creativity notebook.
I was just loosening up, yeah.
The creativity starts now.
Get your Scribblers Festival. All right, one more time. Scribbler. Scribblers. It's quite a mouthful, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of syllables there.
Scribblers Festival Fueling Creativity workbook.
The creativity starts now.
I've forgotten it. Get your Scribblers Festival Fueling Creativity workbook. Okay, cool, go.
Okay. The creativity starts now.
Get your Scribblers Festival. No, I can't say that one. I can't say it. It's not going to happen.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
The creativity starts now.
Get your Scribblers Festival Fueling Creativity workbook.